Now, to the front cover of Magical Mystery Tour. Three animals dressed in white, a walrus in black. The three animals dressed in white are Ringo, George, and John. The walrus in black is supposedly Paul. Glass Onion on the album The Beatles tells us the walrus is Paul. However, the hippo on the front cover wears his watch band on the right hand, the hand that a left-handed person would normally wear it. You all recall that Paul is left-handed. And all the others, assuming they are the Beatles, wear them on the right, with the exception of the walrus, whose watch band is not visible. On the inside booklet, page 5, the walrus plays the piano, and the left-handed hippo plays bass. The walrus is supposed to be Paul, and yet there is a hippo playing bass. Sounds like Dr. Seuss. Again, on page 10, McCartney wears his watch on the right hand. And on pages 12 and 13, we see McCartney playing bass and Lennon seated at the piano. Now, it might appear that the walrus is not really Paul at all, but Lennon. And the fact that walrus is supposed to mean corpse in Greek is not really true. Ptomo nekron soma means corpse in Greek, while walrus in Greek is Aolphus. I'm certain it loses something in the translation, but no matter. It's all Greek to us anyway. McCartney's tailor, Doug Howard, contacted by us but refusing to consent to an interview, told us only that he fitted McCartney for a suit just 8 days ago. George Martin says that he knows nothing about it. All of the Beatles are incommunicado. No one is willing to say anything. Stan Roberts, KB morning personality, talked to a friend, Lee Gray, who knew McCartney on the first tour and has seen him many times since. Their conversation went this way.
I was up all night. I went out to Central Park about 6:20, 6:30 in the morning. And I was walking through the park. And I ran into Paul McCartney and Linda, the former Miss Linda Eastman. And I had seen Paul and known Paul from other times when I was on Beatles trips with him. We took some people over to London to meet him. I knew him in Hamburg, Germany. I used to MC things for him up there back in '62. And so anyway, he recognized me, and we sat on the grass, 6:30 in the morning on Tuesday morning last night, talking. And he recalled some things, he was telling Linda about some things that he thought that were funny, that only Paul McCartney would know. Things like one day at the Odeon Hammersmith Theater, which is a theater in the suburbs of London. I came out of the water closet, or the bathroom.
Yes.
And my fly was undone. And Paul told me about it, and I zipped it back up, of course. And then he unzipped it again and said, it looks better that way, which is a funny little side thing that nobody would know about.
What conclusion can we come to? We can see McCartney's pictures in the papers, but there's always the Lookalike Contest. And the fact exists that the winner of the contest cannot be found, or perhaps does not want to be found. There are the voice graphs done by Dr. Tossi at Michigan State. He claims that the voices are the same, but Dr. Tossi was working from only one word that he was able to match, the word song. And although he claims this evidence is enough to establish the man's identity, it is not in a court of law. The law requires that 10 words must match before they can even be admitted as evidence in court. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, has established a pattern of vocal fingerprints that they say match conclusively. But by the same token, a University of Miami professor has said that musical comparisons he has made do not. Dr. Henry Truby, director of the university's Language and Linguistics Research Department, put the McCartney riddle to the so-called sound fingerprint test. After 20 hours of running experiments on dozens of Beatle records dating back from the early 60s to now, the professor said there is reasonable doubt that 3 voices popularly attributed to McCartney are produced by the same set of vocal cords. I hear 3 different McCartneys.
On the basis of the song plus music, that is singing voice plus musical background analysis, that's the only way I can describe it, because that's what it is. I have not been able to say that there were less than 3 voices, all of which were, according to Mr. Century, attributed on the labels drawn to Paul McCartney. And we did look very carefully at the vocal outputs on these songs and on these selections, and these were my conclusions.
Dr. Truby says, I cannot conclude that the same voice appears in these early and late passages. Dr. Truby, by the way, has spent 20 years studying audio studies scientifically. Jeane Dixon, The woman who predicted the death of the Kennedys also predicted that one of the Beatles would die in a plane crash, the unlikely candidate, Ringo Starr. A Philadelphia article quoted Mrs. Dixon as saying that McCartney is the devil's disciple. KB's Dan Neverett spoke with her.
I meditated on Paul McCartney the other day, and I do not get that he's been killed in an automobile crash of any kind.
Do you, Mrs. Dixon, do you detect any kind of a problem within the group?
Oh, there's a problem in the group. There's been problems there for quite a little while, and they're not as closely knit as they used to be by any matter of means. I forecast a long time ago that they were going to try to bring an Eastern religion to the West, you see. However, I do not believe that Paul agrees with them on that kind of religion.
So then there could possibly be some symbolism that they have pronounced him spiritually dead?
Yes, spiritually, yes, but not physically.
What is your opinion of this affair? From the men who have chased down the clues and have been intimately involved, what do people like Dan Neverett have to say?